Hello everyone, my name is Chris and welcome back to the channel. This is where we have inspired conversation about all things personal finance, income tax strategy, and business advisory. So today we are going to talk about building your legacy, stage 10. And this is planning, creating, and living your legacy. Such an important stage. So let's talk about this word legacy. Legacy is something that is built now and experienced later. But I'd like to argue that we do too much thinking about legacy as something that's experienced by others after we're gone from this earth. I want to propose and encourage us to think about legacy as something we deal with now while we're here on this earth, and leaving values and financial resources and wisdom and knowledge, and leaving our footprint or our fingerprint on this earth while we're still alive. Yes, legacy is important after we're gone, but let's pay attention to it now and live it and breathe it and love it while we're still here to see it. So you are progressing on your wealth building journey. You're applying good behaviors. You're achieving full income potential, and you're watching your wealth tree grow. So now here are some questions to ask, and I'm going to list 5 questions, and I've got them here on my iPad. Here's some important questions to start asking yourself as we start thinking about the legacy building process. So here's number 1. What can I do to benefit others? Question number 2, what can I do to benefit my community? And so question number 3, do I want my wealth to benefit others well after I am gone? And if so, who and for how long? Question number 4, how do I ensure my values are built into the legacy process? This is more than just financial resources and how to structurally leave assets and financial wealth. This is also values and wisdom and stories and things that we're going to talk a little bit about in this video. Legacy planning is more than just financial matters. Question number 5. What can I do to ensure my family is taken care of? And this question is an important one to ask because recent studies have consistently shown that heirs that are not prepared to receive wealth typically will squander that wealth within 2 years after receiving the inheritance. 2 years. That's too short of a time period. That is not enough planning, and that is not enough wisdom leaving and structural estate planning that is done to allow the next generation to properly and successfully and with abundance and intention in mind to successfully handle that wealth and live an abundant life. So let's go over to the whiteboard and talk about stage 10, building your legacy. Here we go. So here we are at the whiteboard, and let's talk about stage 10, legacy. So recall our stages 6, 7, 8, and 9, the wealth building stages, and now adding stage 10, our concurrent stages. I like to think about these as happening simultaneously, or we are thinking about these stages kind of concurrently at the same time. Now, legacy planning, estate planning, legacy planning may look a lot different as we're early on in our wealth building stages. But as we start to grow and wealth builds, then stage 10 becomes even more important. The priority level gets higher as that wealth tree starts getting bigger and more complexity enters our lives. I want to talk about 6 key points in the legacy planning process. Number 1, being generous with time and money is an action to be applied throughout our journey. So I wanted this to be point number 1 because I want to emphasize this. We should be generous. We should think about our time and our resources and telling our story and helping others. I'm not saying we should wait till the end of our journey to be practicing those important things. That's to happen throughout our journey. Giving of yourself, volunteering, and maybe even in small amounts, financial support, financial giving while you are building financial stability. And then certainly that gets bigger as you're building wealth, giving your financial resources. But giving of yourself, being generous, benefiting your community, your family, others, needs to be something that is built in the lifeblood throughout your journey. So key point number 2, leaving a legacy is more than just a financial matter, which leads directly into key point number 3, which is instilling values and principles with loved ones, being an example in your community, and being a role model to those that you love and to others are a key part of the legacy planning process. It's not just about money. It's not just about complexity of an estate plan and creativity and how you leave assets. This goes beyond those very important things, but it goes beyond that to instilling values, behaviors, and your unique footprint on this earth is not just about money. All right, so let's go to key point number 4. Build a circle of advisors and experts who can help you with the legacy planning process. Very key. Those might CPAs, attorneys, investment advisors, a team of professionals that can help you think through and plan and organize your thoughts around the legacy planning process. It becomes ever more important as your wealth tree grows and you're well along on your wealth building journey. Key point number 5. Get to know your local community foundation. Now, this may not be the case for everybody if you don't have a local community foundation, but seek out your community foundation if you have one in your area, your region. Many times, your community foundation has a wealth of knowledge on the community, on the causes that are important in the community, and can help you think through how you may benefit the community, how you may set up a fund to impact your community in a positive way, or even just connect you in ways with resources that could be valuable in your process. Get to know your local community foundation. And then number 6, use video to capture moments, stories, wisdom, knowledge, and wishes. We're going to talk here in a second about the basics of estate planning and documents. But don't forget how easy it is these days to use video, just like we're doing right now. Use video, your phone, a camera. It's so easy to use videos to capture wishes, from your heart, telling your loved ones, and sharing thoughts, wisdom, money behaviors with your loved ones, with others, using video. Now, I'm not saying don't do that while you're still here on this earth. Do that in person. Do that face to face, and do that often. But capturing that in a video so it's available for future generations can be a powerful thing. So think about video as a way to capture moments. That's key point number 6. So let's get into a little bit of detail on what is estate planning and versus legacy planning. And I think of legacy planning and estate planning as interchangeable. Legacy planning is maybe the bigger holistic process that we're going through, and estate planning is a component of legacy planning. And it is more of the details and the structure on how an estate is to be left after one passes. Let's talk about some basics of estate planning and estate planning documents. A key thought here: mixing grief and money can create significant challenges for your loved ones after you're gone. So with that in mind, I hope that inspires you a bit to say, yeah, I need to think about my estate and how the passing of assets and wishes to my loved ones is going to happen when I'm not here to say and not to facilitate and to administer any of that. So extremely important to be intentional about estate planning and estate planning documents. So an important action step throughout your entire wealth journey is to be thinking about your estate planning documents. And there are 4 key documents that with a good attorney and your advisory team can think through and plan accordingly as to the need for these 4 documents. So let's talk about these 4 documents in order. Number 1, a will. A will, a last will and testament, is an extremely important document for any estate plan. It is one of the 4 corners or 4 basics of an estate plan, a last will and testament. Number 2, a trust. Now, a trust can take on many different forms, many different needs, depending on the circumstances. We're not going anywhere close to any details on trust planning in this video, but the need for a trust could be part of your estate plan. Powers of attorney, both financial and medical, is the 3rd important set of documents that are needed. Something that's in place to allow somebody to take over if financial decisions need to be made and you do not have the capacity to make those decisions, or if medical decisions need to be made and you do not have the capacity to make those decisions. You're giving someone the power to do that for you. And then number 4, a living will. A living will is that 4th key document in any estate planning process that is needed, so you're giving somebody, your loved ones, instructions in case you are not able to make a decision as to how possible life-ending measures should be administered. So this is that kind of pull the plug authorization that you are giving to somebody in various circumstances and instructions, and hopefully as clear as possible, to let those loved ones have some peace of mind. I had a personal story with this that really impacted me. With 7-8 years ago, my father passed away, and he passed away from a heart attack, but he was in the hospital for 10 days prior to us having to pull the plug and take my father off of life support. My dad did have a living will, and so that was an important document that helped our family understand what my dad's wishes were, so we could work through that process, talk to the doctors, talk to attorneys, and talk amongst ourselves as a family with that document in hand was very valuable. So I have personal experience on how important a living will is, and don't neglect that it's a necessity. I know it's not something we like to think about. It's not something we really enjoy thinking about, but very important to think about it and put something in place. These 4 documents are important, and it's important to review them often. Sometimes things get outdated. Circumstances change. I'll go back to the story of my dad. While he did have a living will and it was an important document, it was a 25-year-old document. And it did help, but it could have been updated for newer language and thought process around living wills given the time that we were in. As well as his financial power of attorney, as an example, was 25 years old and named people that he probably didn't really want to have at that point in time making financial decisions. It excluded his CPA son that could have been part of that financial power of attorney, but when he created that document, it was 25 years ago when I was still in college. So updating these documents is the key point. Every 5 years at least, there should be a revisit of these 4 important documents, or whatever combination of documents you have in place as your estate plan. Revisit them often. Make sure you're updating those estate planning documents to keep up with your circumstances and wishes throughout your wealth journey. Whether or not you need all 4 documents is going to depend on your circumstances, so get professional advice. Again, you're an attorney, a CPA, a powerful team that can help you think that through. You may need to be thinking about estate planning documents. Don't think that we're just down here putting these documents together. As you have kids, as complexity arises in your life, having estate documents in place is an action step that may be necessary throughout this journey. So don't just think I'm waiting till late in the game to prepare a will. No, that's not what I'm saying. Get the proper advice to see when does it make sense to have estate documents in place. It may not make sense to have all 4 of them in place. It may make sense if you don't have kids, for example, not married, no kids, not a lot of wealth that's being built. It may be that a living will or a financial power of attorney is enough. After talking to your advisors, that's enough of a estate plan to make you feel comfortable and give the peace of mind that everything will be okay after you're gone. Another important action step is make sure designated beneficiary forms are updated and accurate. Designated beneficiary forms are forms that relate to 401k plans, individual retirement accounts, possibly insurance policies, deferred compensation plans. Anything that is going to bypass your estate because it's a personal account that you are the owner of. So I'm going to focus on the 401k plan is the prevalent one that we see a lot. Make sure designated beneficiary forms are up to date so that you feel good that everything will pass. That account will pass to your heirs appropriately and not have an unexpected surprise. And one more action step that I think is very important in the estate planning and overall legacy planning process is prepare a net worth statement at least once a year. At least once a year, annually sit down and list your assets, list your liabilities to come to a net worth, family net worth, household net worth that you can know and understand and sit and think about, okay, what do we need to be thinking about in the legacy, in terms of legacy planning, estate planning, as we look at our net worth statement and are seeing our wealth tree grow. Prepare that net worth statement. What does a net worth statement look like? You're going to list your assets. If you want a guide to how to do that, go back to video number 3 where we talk about the three-legged financial stool and work left to right on that three-legged financial stool and list your financial assets and then maybe your cash flow assets, a business, real estate, and then your lifestyle assets, your home, vehicles, that sort of thing. List your assets in that order. Subtract any liabilities that are in place at that point in time, and there's your net worth. Very important, simple action step, but very valuable. Think about a net worth statement on an annual basis. Sit down with your significant other and prepare and look and analyze at your net worth statement. Bring that statement also to your advisors. Important to let your advisors see your net worth statement. Then they're fully up to speed on where you're at in your wealth journey and can advise you appropriately. So lastly on this video, I'd like to share an estate planning diagram on the back of the whiteboard. And the purpose of this is to try to explain estate planning in a very simplistic way, because that's where we need to start out understanding estate planning. Estate planning can involve very complex language, acronyms. The trusts that are created are numerous and vary in complexity. So it overwhelms people. Estate planning can be very overwhelming. Clients that come in and they've read articles or they've talked to their friends and family about estate planning and hear all of these things and can really kind of conjure up in their mind a very complex, convoluted process. And yes, it can be. But starting out with this simple diagram that I want to share, at least helps people understand, okay, what are we trying to do? What is really important? And then from there, how do we tailor this estate plan to our specific needs? So with that, let's go to the back of the whiteboard, and I want to share a simple diagram with you. Let's go. So I've got here on the whiteboard 4 circles, and I like to do this with clients when we're doing a very basic, very beginning of the process discussion about estate planning on a whiteboard, on a piece of paper, or the back of an envelope somewhere. Write 3 or 4 circles, And again, we're going to keep this very simple. This is extremely high level, but an important place to start when in trying to understand what estate planning exactly is. So these 4 circles. We're going to say we have an estate here, and let's put $10 million. So the estate circle, put a value in it of $10 million. The client has told me this is roughly what we think our estate is worth. And then the question is, what is going to happen to that estate as it grows and eventually passes on after I'm gone? There are really only 3 options. 1 is your heirs, 2 are charity and causes, and 3 is the government or the IRS. At its very basic core, those are the 3 circles that we're dealing with in estate planning. Now, for many clients, many U.S. taxpayers, this is really not an issue. Even at $10 million, currently in 2024, a married couple has approximately $13 million each that they can give away during their life or at death. That's $26 million as a married couple that can pass to heirs tax-free. So the estate tax regime and the IRS circle is likely not even an issue for most people. However, we always need to be mindful of the heirs. Also below them, I like to draw a 5th circle, another IRS circle that our heirs have to deal with. And so as we're passing assets to the next generation, we need to think about the tax obligation, both income tax and estate tax, but primarily income tax first and foremost, that our heirs have to deal with as they inherit assets from the previous generation. So very important to think through that. We're not going into a lot of details right now, but income taxes play a big role for our heirs as we're leaving assets. So that's a key thought process in the estate planning mindset. But ultimately, this is what happens. And from there, we know that heirs includes the surviving spouse. So likely we're having to take care of our surviving spouse prior to the surviving spouse passing away, and then the next generation, kids, grandkids, stepping into the shoes of wealth. Charity and causes, obviously very important to be thinking about that. Again, that legacy planning while we're still alive. We don't have to wait until death for charities to be impacted or to receive financial assets. In fact, a good concept to think about here is these arrows can be drawn. This is not necessarily at death, but this could be at death or while you are alive. Giving away assets while you're still alive and able to see the impact of that is part of the legacy planning process. So these arrows are happening. Obviously, the IRS estate tax one happens at death and only if it applies to you. But passing assets down while you're alive or at death essentially falls into this very basic diagram. So why don't we quickly talk about what happens, Chris, if there's another zero here. We're at 100 million. Well, now we're into an estate tax situation. And so we do have to think about this arrow. And if it's important to the client to want to minimize estate taxes, this is where estate planning, estate tax planning in particular, can get very complex. And we have to think about an estate, whether it's 10 million or 100 million, as it is going to grow. And so I like to draw a dotted line. And this dotted line around here represents kind of the appreciation that's going to happen on that 10 million, 50 million, or $100 million estate, prior to the passing of the person. And so that growth is important to think about. If we're in this type of realm, possibly taking a slice out of the estate, including this future growth, might be important to do and pass that along to our heirs while you're still alive, as an example of one thing to do to try to minimize this estate tax bucket over here with the IRS. So it gets so much more complex than that. But helping a client understand the basics of here's how it's all going to pass. From there, depending on the size and the complexity of the estate, based on your wishes with your heirs, with charities and causes, and how much you want to minimize estate tax if estate tax is something that could apply, and how much you want to, and make sure to minimize the income tax and possible estate tax burden for your heirs during their wealth building journey. So at its core, this is essentially what estate planning comes down to. From there, it expands to get more complex as complexity starts to arise in your wealth journey, and as family dynamics become more complex. Important to think about what this diagram then looks like for you. And from there, it can certainly get more complex. Important to have your advisory team on board, your attorney, your accountant, your investment advisor, your professional team that you have placed a lot of trust in. Empower them to help you through this process. I hope you enjoyed this video today on Stage 10 and legacy planning. It's important to think about your legacy because whether you realize it or not, you are building on your legacy every day. Maya Angelou had a very good quote, and I have it written down here. I'd like to read that to you. This is a quote from Maya Angelou. "If you're going to live, leave behind a legacy. Make an impact on the world that can never be erased." End quote. Be intentional and have a plan. Part of your process is to make sure you are consulting your advisory team to help you think through and understand what estate planning, legacy planning means to you. I enjoyed sharing this with you today. Before I leave you, remember this: Financial prosperity is not the pursuit, but can be the result of pursuing an abundant and prosperous life. So you go out, stay safe, build your legacy, make your mark, and have fun. Bye for now.
This presentation is brought to you by DWC Wealth Advisors. Information can be found at dwcwealthadvisors.com.